Wanted to talk today about magnesium and European civilization, the origins of the European civilization, starting with a place called Magnesia, which is, where the beginning of the bath culture originated. Greek and Roman bath culture. I guess you could say the Romans took that from the Greeks, but so the bathing culture was not just about bathing in the ocean, although that's part of it. It was also about these special regions that had a specific quality of like particular minerals that you could find in what would you call it, like soft stone deposits that were near the surface or through rock streams or different ways they could access it, or they could dig and like I know that in certain, I guess they could put some sort of tubing, back in the day using reeds or whatever they used, and to be able to pull some of that stuff up, mix it with water, get access to these soft stones. So that was one common feature. You also find that feature near Epsom. You also find that feature near Bath. Bath is a city in England. And you also find that feature near Spa, which is a city in Belgium. And so that's just a few. I mean, there's Spain and there's a lot of other places. I mean, France is filled with these places. But and so finding this soft stone, this old stone, which is funny because Zechstein means old stone. And so they find this old stone, and they're able to use this stone that's been processed by nature and purified. And so it's got this softness to it, and it melts in contact with water. And so they use this brine, and this brine has like a dry oil texture, viscous. It's not seawater. It has a certain texture to it. And so this brine they used on the skin. And so one of the reasons they established these cultures, or these rituals or traditions or whatever you want to call it, to get out to overcome magnesium deficiency in their population. So this was a sure place to set up settlement because they knew that they could overcome magnesium deficiency. I don't think everybody had access to all the different variations of foods that we have today, although it was much richer to some degree, the soil and everything. But the poor and different groups would have a harder time getting a different range or a wider range, or being able to cover certain vitamins, especially through poverty or other reasons. And so this was like a boon for everyone, not only for the aging population, which there's a lot of people who partook in this, but even for, younger citizens and different people who wanted to get the health benefits from it. Now, in France, I guess you could say they have the thalassotherapy, and they have all these different coastal little areas and areas that you can go to dip in certain specific mineral-rich waters that have a combination of magnesium, sulfur, different types of things. And that allows for some sort of healing, but different types of healing, like dermatology, some for rheumatism, some for, pulmonary. And there's just so many different ways that they do that. And that system is set up in France. It's crazy because that's the one cool thing about French system as far as medicine goes. Is that they still have this old system that you actually pay, you can get paid to go there, through that system there, because they have this, not free healthcare, of course, nothing's free, but that's one relic from the old days that's in part of their healthcare system, which is kind of neat. So why did they set up all this? Why did they spend all their time doing this? Because they knew that the magnesium was there. They knew that the soft stone was accessible there, and so they were able to get this brine and use it. The Spartans were using it on their legs, the waters of Magnesia, and all of this. And even Epsom, these areas that were famous for certain types of stones. I guess in Italy you have like Dolomite, near the Dolomite Mountains, and you have different types of areas where they knew that there was some softening stone that could be used for health. And so they didn't have the science to back it up, but they sensed it, they felt it through the body, or on the soul level, whatever it was, they got a dose, I guess you could say, to recharge their batteries. And so that's the origin of European civilization to some degree. I mean, this is how these things began. I know that these regions were very coveted and that's why I guess the Romans took all over all of these regions and expanded them and took possession of them. So it's very interesting to know that if you take pills or you do anything like that, you have to know that you cannot find health if you somehow are able to short circuit 2,000, 3,000 years of history like that. There's no way you're going to aim at health and get there if wisdom is thrown out the window like that. And so we have to reincorporate the wisdom and find a way to bring it into a modern world, I guess you could say. Like maybe everybody in the city is not going to go run down to Greece or wherever it is. So what you do is like we have like the transdermal magnesium as a way to bring that old tradition into a modern format. Now, it's important to note that, you have to get the right stuff when it comes to this. Like we're finding out ancient minerals. We got now brands. We got all these brands in America that are using fake Zechstein. It's not coming from the original source, Zechstein inside. And so they're using a lot of it's solvent extracted, imported from Asia, sold by Asian companies as coming from the port system of Holland, and therefore European, with certificates showing analysis that are just samples sent to Holland. And so then the Americans can say, well, we're innocent. They sold us something we thought was European. And so this traceability thing just doesn't happen. I mean, we're in a high level of deception in America. You can go buy a sausage chorizo in the grocery store. It has a Spanish woman dancing on the front with a Spanish flag, the word Spain 500 times written all over the package. And then you flip it over, it's made in the USA by soy-fed pigs. Not at all the same as what you would have got from Spain. Now, why are they doing that? All that deception. So if you were in Europe, you wouldn't be allowed to do that. That would be seen as too deceptive. And so, because they have more local controls on that kind of thing, which I think is smart. And so things are protected by region, things like that. So in America, we can just get away with it. You can put Zechstein anywhere you want. You can put Netherlands on there sometimes and get away with that. My friends in the Netherlands who run this operation, the Zechstein inside, they're blown away by what you can do here. They're like, whoa, we just can't even believe it. So be very careful in what you get. And the other thing to remember is that 99% of all the supplements you buy are from a solvent extracted magnesium molecule. It's something that's been pulled from undiscerning rock strata. It's been used it's been pulled, and then they send the solvents to pull off the calcium, the potassium, sometimes heavy metals, especially if it's like open sea, like Dead Sea, bromine, and Salt Lake, mercury, and you have all these different combinations that you can get in trouble with. And so they pull all that out, and they call that upgrading. And then this final molecule, this like chloride molecule that's got all of its tentacles neutered from it, now you can orotate and glycinate, and you can threonate, you can do all this stuff to it. So don't believe the hype. Like this is when you have a natural state molecule that's not been neutered like that, coming from a soft stone that needs no separation of calcium, potassium, and the hard part is you have to find that first. Like gold, the hard part is finding it. Once you find it, you're good. And so this white gold, they call it in Holland, is there and to be used. And so a lot of people are pretending that they're getting it from there. And there's just this whole dark market of magnesium, which sounds kind of crazy, but it's true because it's not dark in the sense that we need magnesium. And so everybody needs it. So it's not a bad thing that people are out there pushing these things. But the problem is you never get the full spectrum. You don't get the full spectrum detoxification, the high level chelation, the membrane transport and conjugation, a lot of things that the magnesium does. You don't get the strength of that natural state molecule doing that. And then that same strength and stickiness and enzyme-assisted chelation, which brings out a lot of aluminum through acid malic and malic acid and magnesium malate and other things that are mixing in there and bringing some of these aluminums and heavy metals and different things out of the body. So always get the right stuff. Don't mess around. Spend the money. It's not that expensive. It may cost you $50 a year to pull off some of this deficiency, depending on the person. Maybe 50 to 100. But I mean, it's such a big deficiency. Our deficiencies cannot be healed without love. It takes concentration, action, love. You have to pay attention to them and try to knock them out. Not like an enemy, but you do have to aim at them. And so they can't just be had through a couple almonds and a banana every so often, or whatever kind of denial scheme. We need to learn to use the wisdom that was given to us and reincorporate it in a modern sense. So that's what they don't want you to figure out, because you can patent all these threonates and all this stuff and have people walking around stuttering blood-brain barrier. I have the one for the blood-brain barrier. And it's like, okay, yeah, you've been marketed, bro. Like the blood-brain barrier it can be crossed. It can be crossed through vascular ganglia, the lymphatic system of vascular ganglia. They're finding out this now. The brain is smart. It's selectively permeable, but just like the rest of the body, there's ways. Yes, there is a barrier, but there is ways that the body can bring in what it needs. You don't have to fall into their marketing or whatever. And so the chloride molecule is this master molecule. So when you eat food, it turns, even the food magnesium you eat in your food, it turns it into chloride through the hydrochloric acid. It takes the chloride in through the skin. It pulls it in just like you would if you were in the ocean. It pulls in the chloride. It doesn't pull in the salt or you would die. So the organism is intelligent and it knows what it's doing. It pulls in what it needs. And so we're just learning about this. And so this is what our ancestors knew already. So the origins of Europe, the wisdom, all that needs to be brought back in so we can find health again. Now, I always tell people to look at our podcast on the threefold remedy, because that's how you aim at these deficiencies: the K2 emu oil, or foie gras, the fermented cod liver oil, or botarga, which is like a fermented fish eggs. I'm giving you different variations on the exact same thing. And then you have, or high vitamin cod liver oil works too, which isn't fermented, but it comes from, it's the stuff they keep in Norway that they don't sell as much outside unless you look for it online. It's funny how all the best supplements, these sacred supplements, you can't even find online without seeking them. You definitely can't find them in stores, even the best stores with all these supplements. And so that's the sacred search that we have to find, the search for truth, which is a very small percent of reality. In a given grocery store, there's about that 1% search for truth in there, and you have to find it. So knocking that out with the magnesium, I call that the threefold remedy, hitting all three of those deficiencies at once and aiming at them for over a year period and allowing that to heal, or at least a year, let's say, or a year maybe, but that's already good enough. And so anyway, get everything working together, because years of us being deficient in magnesium has created deficient structure. Our tendons, our bones, everything has had low levels of magnesium in it because we've had low levels of magnesium deficiencies for 100 years at minimum, at least since the 30s when they declared this in the Senate. But even beyond that, and then sugar and everything else that comes along with it, all the stress and all the other things that pull it away from the body, and coffee. And so you got a lot of things that are taking away 5G or whatever, 4G. And so learning about how to overcome this and getting the stuff that can help you to have high levels of magnesium through the life cycle is going to allow you to recreate, your body recreates every single cell in it in the 7-year period. So maybe not when you're like 97, there's different rules there, but in general, every 7 years, it's, creating itself again. And so this next 7 years, have these deficiencies covered throughout that whole period. And guess what? By the end of that 7 years, you're going to have a lot stronger system. Now, it doesn't mean you can make up for all the errors of the past. No. And especially the errors of the first few years of life. Of course, those can never be completely uncovered like that, because those are intense moments where you need this. You need things to be working right. But you can do a lot of positive, I say damage, but you can do a lot of positive, have a lot of positive effect by trying to change these things and getting to where your structures, your tissue, your bones, everything is having this magnesium lattice built into it. And so then from that, the calcium doesn't cause cell death. It doesn't harden everything, the tissues, the bone spurs, all the arthritis and all these different things where different types of things, not just heavy metals and toxins, but also calcium and things get in there and mess up everything. And so it's like a computer, I guess. You just throw in all this stuff in there, and so it needs that magnesium to balance it out. And you don't have to worry about, maybe I should take more calcium. It's like, no, magnesium is pretty much always the limiting factor, pretty much. I mean, there's sulfur, there's other things, and manganese, and we have other minerals, but iodine, for example, which is a big one too. But magnesium is always the limited factor in this argument. And so you can use it and vitamin D2 in the cod liver oil and the K2 in the emu oil, sipping oil, and you can knock these out much quicker and better, more efficiently when they work together. They actually help each other. And so they help the reabsorption and the distal tube of the kidneys. There's different ways that things play into each other. So anyway, if that can help somebody, don't get the wrong stuff. Come to theheartoftradition.com. Always get it in glass. Never get magnesium in plastic. It delivers the plastic compounds down into the cells. They cause weight gain and everything else. You want the magnesium to be as pure as possible. We bottle with using silicone tubes. We always pay attention to keeping everything in glass. It's not a dinosaur industry. It'll catch up with us over the next 10 years. Whenever the endocrine disruption, we start really realizing what it's been doing to us, not just us, but the frogs and the nature and everything that's going, crossing from, you have, male frogs going to female frogs. You have all these things that are happening that we're being able to pick up on due to plastics and things in the environment that mimic estrogen. So anyway, let's get these things out of the body through the sweat glands with magnesium chelation and start enzyme-assisted chelation, and let's start healing this stuff. So anyway, come check us out at theheartoftradition.com.